Hi guys. I can't entirely tell what's happening because we have just had so many problems, and I think that this live stream is like a few minutes delayed. So we are having the best, funnest, so most at-home fun club ever with distance learning. Alicia's coming in. Alicia? Alicia?
We're here. We made it.
Oh my word. Okay. So it's so funny because we decided that we like totally had to have this Somos at home fun club because distance learning has been driving all of us bananas, and I'm not even teaching. I'm just like creating distance learning materials, and it's driving me insane. And Alicia is dealing with distance teaching, and it's bananas. And so everything was totally fine for this live. We had it all planned out. We were going to use Zoom, and my husband does it all the time. And then we just had a series of like 20 problems. Finally, I figured out, I even tried going in through Be Live, which we've used a million times, and it wouldn't connect to my camera. So finally, Alicia, what I did, I instead of using Chrome, which you're supposed to use for everything because everything works best in Chrome, I opened this up in Safari and it worked. So there you go.
Awesome.
Yeah, but we're here now, and this is our first time doing a Zoom live on Facebook, so it looks like it's a little bit delayed, and I'm not entirely sure how well we're gonna be able to see the comments. Alicia, can you see things like pretty live or not so much?
I can see them live, but I have another screen set up, so if I'm looking this way, it's either because my cat is trying to get on my lap or I'm reading comments.
Okay. So the important thing is, because one of the fantastic things that we've planned for this Facebook Live is we're going to play Strip Bingo. And for those of you guys that are not using Somos, and I just totally freaked you out because you're not familiar with Strip Bingo, it's an academic game, and you keep all of your clothes on and you play it with a strip of paper. So you'll need to have that handy. Oh, what?
Wait, let's stop and introduce ourselves because we have a lot of people who don't know who we are or what we're doing here. So
okay. I'm still trying to figure out what screen I'm supposed to be on because I keep clicking on the Chrome browser, and I'm not in Chrome. I'm in Safari, but I'm also in Zoom. So solidarity to everyone who's distance teaching. Crazy.
So you figure that out. I'll start.
Okay.
I'm Alicia Cardenas. I am a Somos curriculum mentor and soon to be the director of training for the Comprehensible Classroom. And I'm also currently a 7th and 8th grade and 5th grade teacher. So like all of you guys, I've been thrown into, at our school, we call it continuous learning plans. And it's been unbelievably challenging and kind of depressing. Okay, really depressing. So one of the reasons we want to do this is because we want to let you guys know that you're not alone. There are things that are working for input focused, comprehension focused, acquisition driven learning and teaching that are out there, but we're not going to talk about them here because we want to take a little break.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm so excited that we brought this fun club. I had so much fun last summer when we did the fun club, and all of our episodes, we've been referencing them a lot. So I am Martina Bex. I wrote the Somos curriculum, and you're going to hear a little bit more about my story when we're playing Strip Bingo in a little bit. But I live in Vermont. I'm not in the classroom anymore because I'm home with my 5 kids, 2 of whom are doing continuous learning. I have a 2nd grader and a kindergartner. And honestly, even being someone who knows, like I'm familiar with all the platforms that they're using, and I love teaching, and it's been really hard just managing, like each of them has like 10 different logins for different websites that they're able to use. And like they don't know how to use computers yet that well. And then they got a Chromebook, and Chromebooks are horrible. No offense, but like they're so hard to use if you don't know how to like work your fingers for keypad motions. So like my kids are just stressed out and I'm stressed out. So we're doing like minimal school. But yeah, that's continuous learning. So I'm excited to be here in this fun club and to just be doing some talking about what we love about language teaching. That's what we just kind of wanted to get back about, is that like this is like really bogging us all down. And you know, so many teachers that good friends of mine that I've talked to are like, you know, they've taken away everything from me that I love about teaching language, and all the things that I'm left with are the things that I don't like. And so it can just be really draining to keep pressing on and trying to be creative and trying to connect with your students when language school, like we're just not set up for distance learning. Like distance learning isn't, I mean, there's ways to do it, but we're not ready for it. So we wanted to talk about fun stuff. So should we just play strip bingo?
I think we should just play strip bingo.
Okay.
How does it work?
Okay, so what everybody's gonna need is a strip of paper. I mean, you could do like a whole paper if you wanted, but you need a strip of paper, and we're just gonna do a very short game of it. And so I divided mine into 5 sections. So you're gonna need 5 different spots on your strip bingo, 5 different spots on your strip. I'll give you a minute to go find your stuff. 5 spots, and I am going to share my screen, maybe. I don't know.
And while she's doing that, I'm going to tell you when I give students this direction in a live, and I have done this as an asynchronous, as a synchronous lesson, I tell them just quickly draw 5 boxes. Doesn't matter, hot dog style, not hamburger style. Is that hot dog? I can never remember which is which, but I do this. It takes about 10 seconds.
Okay, so everybody needs paper. When you've got it ready and you've got it split into 5 boxes, there I went, just clicking Chrome again. Click ready. Yeah, if you aren't on the Zoom call, yeah, you can. Oh, yeah. Tina, you can totally play. So I don't need to see you to be able to do this. You just need to be able to type in your thing. So when you've got your strip ready, type ready. And I just need to make sure that we have a couple people that are playing with us. So when you've got your paper, type ready. And then you guys can see the screen now. What you're going to do.
So
it's okay, Deirdre. We're playing strip bingo. Yes, yay. Vanessa, awesome. Leticia, fantastico. Awesome, Christy. Okay, so you got your paper. Get a paper, any paper. It can be scrap papers. 5 things. I know, Deirdre, you don't even want to know that we have had so many problems. So a paper divided into 5 sections. Now you see this screen up here with all the words. You're going to write down 5 words, 1 word in each box from that word cloud, anything. So you could write down training, filmed, enjoy, TPRS, spent, or you could write weekends, first, teaching, explained, any 5 words, write them down in the 5 boxes. Alicia, do I need to clarify anymore? Do you want to,
you're good.
Do you want to revoice my instructions? That's what my
sure.
second grade teacher always says.
Revoice.
Yes.
So you've got your strip of paper, you've divided up into 5 boxes, and you've chosen 5 words and written them down. It doesn't matter which 5 words you choose.
Or does it?
And I know we said we weren't going to talk about distance learning, but I'm going to highlight a couple things that Martina just did that can help you if you are in a situation where you need to do synchronous teaching. And one of them is what she just said, type ready when you're ready. So that we know. Something else I've done is if I can actually see everybody, hold up your paper when you're ready so I can see it.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
all right.
Now, because I already said ready, but it was before you put the words on, now you have to type the word bananas into
bananas. Oh wait,
banana.
I have bananas.
Banana. Okay. So you've got to type bananas into the comments when you've got your paper already with words. So when you've got your paper with 5 words ready, type bananas.
Chispita, you win. First person ready.
Deirdre. Do you know that Deirdre?
Katie, awesome.
She was the reason I went to the Morat concert in New York City last year.
No way.
She was.
By the way, Grace Cooper, I believe
Woo,
you had
Cooper.
a birthday recently. Feliz cumpleaños, Grace.
Feliz cumpleaños, Grace. We love you. Okay. No, Melanie, you don't have to be on the Zoom call. You just have to be able to see our Zoom call and be able to type so you can participate. So, Bananas Tina's with us. Julie's with us. Julie, all of my Vermont people, well, former Vermont people and Vermont people. Not like I would be able to see you if you lived in Vermont anyway, in our current situation. So, okay. All right. We got a lot of people.
I think we're ready.
All right. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be reading a story to you. And in that story, as I'm reading it, you are going to be hearing some of the words that you wrote down. So if, for example, one of the words that you wrote down was apple, and I say the word apple, you might be able to eliminate it from your strip bingo board. This is your bingo board. You can only eliminate words that are on the ends. So in this case, like I wrote down made. So if I'm like, blah, 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 I made a cake. Whew. So you can eliminate the word made because you heard me say it and the word is on one of the ends. So you're going to just rip it off. And now your bingo board looks like this. So now you'll see this word is the same that was on the end, but this one, I have a new word that's on the end that you would be listening for. If I was like, blah, 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 Arabian Nights. Well, I said nights, but it's in the middle of the strip. And so you cannot eliminate it. You can only eliminate the words that are on the end. So you'll have to wait until I say this word so that you can eliminate this word. Alicia, would you like to revoice something for me?
I will, but I just noticed that nobody can see me on the Zoom, so I'm just a disembodied voice.
Oh, how could you?
Hi. I know, and it's terrible because I have a really cute dog on my lap too. There I am.
How could that be so? Oh, because of the streaming.
It's the streaming. So no worries.
No.
If we're sharing the screen,
Okay.
I don't think we can both be there.
Right.
And this is what distance learning is like, right?
Now I can see you.
Now
I
you
just have to be
me.
silent.
And here's my cute dog, y'all. All right. So if I chose the word directing and if I hear the word directing or the word mentor, I can rip those off. If I hear TPRS, I can't rip that off until it's in the game, like that. All right.
All right. Who's ready to play? Okay. This is fun because Nancy Boxler just commented, and Nancy is one of my friends from Alaska way back in the time. And I'm going to be reading a story about Alaska when I knew Nancy in Alaska. So connections. All right, here's my story. You're going to be listening for your words. Let's say whenever you get a word that's eliminated, just type it in the comments because we can't see you. So we can't see like how excited you are when your words are being eliminated. So anytime that you eliminate a word, do two things. First, rip it off. I'll try to read slowly so you have time to do this. You're going to rip it off and type the word in the comments. And then when you get a bingo, your last word, you're going to eliminate. Whenever you get down to the last one, if this was my last one, just rip it in half and then type bingo. And whoever wins a bingo will win a fabulous prize of their choosing. I'll give you some options. Maybe it'll be
question. If I was doing this in class and it was the first time I was doing this is not a question, this is a thought. I would give these directions in English because they're a little bit complicated. The next time you can totally give them in your target language, but the first time, if this is new to students, just explain it in English because the input is in the story.
I did see one question connected. So somebody asked a question about if you hear it once, it might get repeated, but I think all the words that I chose for this word cloud are words that only appear once. So I might have to read the story 2 times in order for you to get a bingo. So if I get all the way through the story the first time and no one's gotten a bingo, then we'll do it again. Okay. Ready? Here we go. Once upon a time, there was a young Spanish teacher who moved to Alaska. She landed her dream teaching job at a brand spanking new middle school in Anchorage. And with no children of her own to fill her time, She spent her days, nights, and weekends soaking up every training opportunity that came her way. One day, she found herself in the classroom of another teacher in the school district as part of the new teacher mentor program. This teacher was doing something totally crazy in class. First of all, she had no desks. Where were the desks? And second of all, a bunch of her students were standing up in the middle of this circle of chairs, walking in circles and flailing their arms like they were fish or whales or something. And the whole time, the teacher was talking in Russian, directing them or narrating what they were doing or something. It was all so strange, but the students seemed to understand and enjoy everything that was happening. After class, we sat down to debrief. I asked what on earth I had just seen, and she explained that it was a TPRS story. Having never heard of this strange 4-letter acronym, she quickly ran to a storage shelf at the back of her room and grabbed a DVD. She told me to go home and watch it and send her any questions I had. So that weekend, I holed up in front of my TV watching filmed sessions from NTPRS 2007. Everything that they had said made so much sense. And so on Monday morning, I threw out everything that I had been doing and I asked my first story. I never looked back. We didn't see, are you monitoring for our bingos?
Yes, we have 2 bingos.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even see
I
it.
missed
Who was
the
the
first one.
I totally missed both of them. I was too busy reading. Oh, I saw Carla.
I saw Carla, but I don't see the first one.
Okay, well, Carla, you'll get a prize, even if you weren't the first one.
Yay. So Carla, you can
And then we'll find the first one.
Me, or you can send an email to info@comprehensibleclassroom.com saying, I won the bingo.
And whoever, if somebody's like, hey, I was before Carla, come on, then, oh, Sarah Hall. Thanks, Deirdre. I love you, Deirdre. Sarah Hall. Okay. Yeah, I did say job way at the beginning, but it might not have been when you had it. So, okay. So Sarah and Carla, you guys will get prizes because what's a fun club? Fun club isn't fun without prizes. Oh, Anna Garcia was the first one. Oh my gosh. Now, Anna, you get a one too. All right. Prizes for everyone. Actually, if everybody wants a prize, you can just go on over to www.revistaliteral.com and you will find free readings for your students every day of the week, Monday through Friday, unless I forget to publish one like I did yesterday.
With reading activities, which is really cool. So if you just want to give students something extra, have them sign up for it and they can do it independently. I love this option. I have a lot of kids who are doing it. It's really cool.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. I'm a little bit feeling like I have some volunteers that are helping me get those out every day, but I'm kind of feeling like, okay, is the juice really worth the squeeze? Like this is a lot of time. So I hope people are using it. So please, revistaliteral.com, we're publishing student stories. Oh, good. I'm so glad you're using it, Deirdre. And they're so fun, and have your students submit stories because we get a lot of submissions and some of them are really great and some of them are just a little bit too hard to work with and make sensible, not comprehensible, just like sometimes they're really weird stories, which is what I love about students. Okay, oh, I'm so glad you guys are using it. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to talk. Okay, so that's my story. So that is how I came. I feel like I should give some context to that. So that's my story. I was in Michelle Whaley's Russian classroom, and the timing like totally worked out because it was in the spring of my first year of teaching, and that was about the time that my students were making mistakes that I thought, you knew this, you've known this, you're one of my top students, why aren't you getting it? And so when I had that experience in Michelle's classroom, just watching language being used in context and students understanding it, and it was magical. Oh, I should stop my share so that we can see both of us. Okay. and yeah, never looked back. Alicia, how did you start, how did you move away from using a grammar and vocabulary syllabus and start teaching for comprehension?
So I got hired as a 7th and 8th grade honors teacher and 7th and 8th grade standards teacher. So I had 4 preps. It was my 4th year of teaching, but I had never taught Spanish at that level. And I arrived and was told, by the way, your honors kids need to be able to go to Spanish 3 honors. And I did a little informal assessment with them and learned that they couldn't put like 2 words together in a row to make meaning, which is okay because I couldn't at that level. I couldn't after a university program, really. So I understood, but I also felt like there had to be something better. And much like you, I'm really motivated to be the best teacher I can be. So I started just diving down into the deep, dark hole of how can I be a better teacher? And I stumbled across this blog by this weird lady named Martina Beck, very memorable name. And she had a complete reframing of what a language class could look like. And she had these resources. And what happened was I tried one. So I think I downloaded one at like Unit 6 for free, or one of the free ones. And I read all of the things and I watched all of the tutorials and I didn't understand it at all, but I really liked it. And I went in the next day and I tried it. And it was a complete failure. And also the kids were blown away. And I suddenly started getting, and so I kept doing it. And I started getting comments from kids, comments from admin, and comments from parents. I teach at a high-end independent school where academic expectations and parent opinions, they weigh a lot. And suddenly the parents were like, what is she doing? My child loves Spanish. And everything that I was doing, I wouldn't say I was doing it wrong because that indicates that there's a right way and a wrong way. I was doing a lot of things that I don't do now. And I wasn't doing anything particularly well or gracefully. And even so, I was using more Spanish, they were understanding, and more importantly, we were having fun. We were having so much fun.
I think that's the biggest thing for me was the fun. Like when we made the switch, and I mean, I was a super fun Spanish teacher anyway. I would just like to say, and I came up with really fun activities, but the level of connection that I had with my students after I started doing TPRS, and then not even, and then even as I started doing less TPRS and more general content-based teaching, not just creating stories with them, it was just so special. And I think that is probably what a lot of teachers are missing right now, is that tight connection. I mean, you form that connection with your students, and then some teachers, aren't able to see their students at all right now, and then others, it's just hard to figure out how to connect with them in the same way over distance learning. So
I'd also like to say, for those of you, sometimes language teaching, like with many specialties, we get really bogged down in a lot of acronyms. So I just want to say what TPRS is.
Thank you.
TPRS stands for teaching proficiency through reading and storytelling. And it's a methodology or an approach invented by Blaine Ray. And it's a core part of Somos, absolutely. It's the art of asking a story, asking questions, and reading. And it is truly my favorite thing. NTPRS, which Martina referenced earlier, is National TPRS Conference. I'm trying to think of other acronyms. CI stands for Comprehensible Input, which we also use the words comprehension-driven, comprehension-based, acquisition-driven, teaching for proficiency. There's a communicatively embedded input. There's all kinds of ways to talk about what we do, but they all have some common things, and that is communication.
Yes, and I'm so glad to be communicating with you today, Alicia, and with everybody else in the comments. Okay, I do feel like I was gonna do, I have this, it's a kind of a quiz that I'm going to be giving Alicia that she doesn't know what the questions are. It's not really a quiz. It's an interview. That's the better word. So I'm going to do that, and it's going to be so fun for me and for you guys watching. But before I do that, I do want to do talk about one really academic thing. So I'm going to share my screen really quick, just because we were just talking about language. and language, how it's acquired. So you said that you had that experience where you had your students and you were talking about putting them on to level 3 honors, and you realized that they couldn't put any words together. And I think that this is the time of the year that a lot of teachers are feeling like that, even though you're not with them physically maybe, but it's like, man, we've been doing these things all year. We've studied so many, like students should have so many words at their disposal. They should have so many like grammar constructions at their disposal. We've been doing this all year. Why can't they put them together? And it's because you've got to put in what you want to come out. So if you want your students to be able to put out words that are strung together and make sense, that's what you've got to put into your students' brain. So this is a super simplified model of input of Bill Van Patten, that's BVP, Bill Van Patten's input processing model. This is very simplified version of what's happening in your head when you're learning language, and everything is driven by input. So input is the language that you're putting into your head, and that can be through reading or listening. And so everything that I create for teachers to use is really focused on those two things. We want students to be reading things in the language and listening to things in the language. And in that input, there are tons and tons and tons of little forms, little pieces of language that are contained, and your brain takes in all of those forms and it attempts to process them. And when we say that the brain attempts to process those forms, all of those pieces of language, what it's trying to do is create a link between the forms contained in the language and meaning. Your brain is trying to make sense of what it's taking in. If your brain can make sense of something, then those are the yellow arrows in this diagram. Then it's received into the brain. It goes into the brain. It's received as intake, and it gets applied to the developing mental representation of language in your head. It's like this web of language in your head. That's how language is stored in your brain, in this like web-like thing called a mental representation of language. The only way that language forms can get applied to that mental representation of language is if your brain has been able to make sense of them. So that's why we talk about comprehensible input, processable language. Then your students can draw on that mental representation of language for output. So that's where it comes from. If students receive input, they can't make sense of it, they can't make a link between a form and a meaning, those forms just get dumped. They're like totally useless to your students. So if you're anything like me, when I first started teaching, I did want to use Spanish all the time with my students. And I also thought that I should use as native-like Spanish as I possibly could so that they would get used to that, like trying to figure out what someone is saying. But what I found out was that that's actually not the most efficient way for language acquisition to happen, because most of what I was saying was getting dumped. They were only able to link a few things in what I was saying, very few forms to meaning. And so most of that language was wasted. Once I started using caretaker speech and limiting the vocabulary I was using, simplifying my language, and slowly bringing students along, they were able to process a lot more of it, and language acquisition could happen a lot faster. And I think that that's what both of us have experienced as we switched over to comprehension-based teaching.
The other thing I want to add is that often teachers feel that grammar is a piece that is a really important part of that intake. But what we actually know from a lot of research is that the grammar that we teach goes in one ear and comes out as the red, because for whatever reason, so if you choose to teach grammar, often it isn't processed as intake. And sometimes there's a lot of really complicated reasons for that I'd be happy to go into in another forum, because I'm really passionate about that. But the upshot is that it isn't processed as intake, and therefore it doesn't help build that web. So the SOMOS curriculum and comprehension-based teaching in general really focuses on building that web. And moving my mindset to that shift, how can I better build that web, has been the transformative piece for me. And for so many teachers. I just read a comment that said somebody said that their reading and writing scores on the stamp went up a huge amount. I believe Nancy said that That's awesome to hear. Isn't it amazing? I've had really similar experiences, and I've been documenting consistently for about 5 years kind of what my students can do, and it's been really cool.
That's awesome. I feel like when you were saying build the web, I feel like I want to have a chant that's like build that web, but not build that web because it's a little bit too close to other things then, but like we've got to come up with a chant that's like build the web. Yeah, Heather, we can totally hook you up with studies. Alicia would love to hook you up with studies to talk about it. But yeah, BVPs, Phil Van Patten's input processing. He goes over that in which of his books? That's
while we're on the topic, the nature of language.
Boost the web.
And then this book, it happens to be just right next to me. Research Talks also goes into quite a lot of the research behind it. Because this is what I have on my desk.
Yeah. Well, we can get into, we can totally connect you with more resources later because we're both really passionate about it. And we think that it is so important for teachers to be able to talk about why we're, to defend the choices that we're making in the classroom, to be able to explain why we're doing what we're doing. Because, you know, we do have some level of accountability to admins and parents, and we want them to be on our side. So, so with that, that's like way too much. STAMP is a test, Mary. I don't know what it stands for though. Maybe Nancy can jump in and say. So enough of that research, academic speak. I'm going to interview Alicia. And for those of you that don't know, today is Earth Day.
Awesome.
And on Earth Day, we like to talk about reducing, reusing, and recycling. And so, Alicia, I would like to know from you, what have you reduced the use of in your classroom? What did you used to do that you no longer do? Something that you've not necessarily no longer, but something that you don't do so much of anymore. You've reduced.
Okay, I would say the very first thing, and I wasn't prepped with these questions, guys. So what popped into my head is error correction. I don't do it. So there is no more red pen. No more red pen. There's virtually no feedback. Whoa, I know. On student writing or student work, and certainly not on student speaking, for many reasons. And one of them is that linguists don't consider errors to be a thing. It's an example of a developmental stage that the language learner is in. So there's no such thing as errors. There's also a lot of research that shows that giving feedback or giving corrective feedback has virtually no value, and in fact can impede uptake. So getting rid of that red pen, awesome. I have reduced that significantly. And yes, it has been challenging, and I've had to rewrite the narrative of what all of these things mean in my classroom and in my community, and work with admins. And like, it hasn't been easy, don't get me wrong, but it has been possible and really freeing for me.
I love it. So, so errors and or error correction feedback, you've reduced these to that. Is there anything else that you could throw? I saw a few different things. I know, and yes, it's so hard. So everybody wants you to repeat that quote. I think they're talking about the one about that it has virtually no impact.
Oh, right. So we know that error correction has virtually no impact on learner language acquisition. So that red pen doesn't help students learn. It just doesn't. This book has a lot of specific research, but so we also, there's no such thing as errors. That might be the other one. Oh, there's no such thing as errors. Their student language is just an indication of the developmental stage that they're in, And we know that language development is ordered and stage-like. Not to get too geeky, I promise.
Oh my gosh, I just feel like this is honestly what this is making me do, is this is making me miss the last time that we were together and the last time we were traveling when we went to the Somos workshop in Dallas. It just is reminding me of all of our beautiful worksheets that we put in our interactive notebooks that talked about the stages of the order of acquisition and the stages of development and how errors are not what we think they are. So one day we will be together again. I think Alicia is going to jump in and respond to some comments. Is that what I see you doing? Or...
Yeah, so Tabitha wanted to know the author of the book Research Talks. This is Eric Herman. It's a favorite. Also, the #1 book that I recommend that every teacher should read, it's the textbook that I use for my methods class at Westminster College, is While We're on the Topic by Dr. Bill Van Patten, and it's available from Actful. I'm not paid by Eric or BVT. I just really find these books to be valuable for me and for other teachers.
Same, totally same. I saw some other people jump in with some things that they reduced. I know you also reduced desks. You don't have desks in your classroom.
Well, yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. So yeah, if you have anything that you've reduced the use of, guys, in the comments, feel free to pop that in. Reusing. So Alicia, with this, I wanted to hear you talk about what are the things that you do the most in class? What are some activities that you keep going back to and reusing them over and over and over because they're simple, flexible, or any other reason?
So there's a balance for teachers, right? We want to simplify our planning, simplify our lives, and simplify things for the kids. I teach middle school. A lot of people teach high school. And even if you're a Spanish teacher at the elementary level, you're probably one of like 5 or 6 specialty teachers. So kids have to keep all of this like teacher world, different teacher, different styles, different activities in mind. And that's hard. That's a cognitive load. So just trying to reduce the number of things that I ask them to do. There's a reduce, but then reuse them.
It's a twofer. Oh my gosh.
I know. So one of my favorite things to reuse is the collaborative mural, which is a technique where when we're done co-creating a story or story asking a CPRS story, if there's time left over, I have the kids get up and quick draw a stick figure of the scene, of one moment, and then I narrate it. And I count down, and it's very easy. I can put a link later in the comments to a video of me doing this with my kids on the very first day of school this year, or maybe the second. And it's a really fun activity.
You were already doing things all the way in Spanish on the first and second day of school, Alicia.
Of course I was, because I can, as long as I keep it comprehensible.
Yeah.
And then I have these pictures and this story, and I can reuse that the next day for a matching activity or a drawing activity or a reading activity or all kinds of things. Like there's so many different things you can do with a text and
but you're getting into my next question, which is recycling. So I was going to ask how you recycle a story. So how do you keep coming back to a text? And I'll just ask it now because you were just saying that. So
this is a threefer. So just taking the example of a collaborative mural. Once I teach the kids how to do it, it's in their heads. We have a story because we've co-created this story together. Then I'm going to take a picture of the mural when we're done with it, because that way I have those illustrations, and I'm going to type up the text. Now I can do a million things with it. One way is I could take little pieces of the mural, just use the screenshot function, and make a slideshow with individual moments, and have give the kids a copy of the text and a whiteboard, and ask them to find the sentence that best describes that illustration. That's one way. Another thing, I could project the mural on a smartboard or on a whiteboard and read a sentence and have kids come up and touch or circle that moment. So they're hearing it again. What else could I do? I could have them match events to, like, I could create a paper matching activity. You could totally do this in a Google Slides if you wanted. For distance learning, that just occurred to me. Maybe I'll work on that tomorrow. So those are just a few things you can do. Yeah, you could make a book out of it. There's so many different ideas to just use that story.
One thing that I heard you say a lot that I think is really important to point out is that you keep looking for ways to have students go back to the text. So you're not even just recycling this general idea of the story or recycling the story as it lives in their heads. You keep having them go back to the text. Can you tell us why?
Well, I know that if I want to get a maximum amount of uptake, somebody suggested spin the web. If I want them to continue to spin the web in their head, they need to interact with that text so many times. But I need to keep it interesting or they're going to get bored. So I need to vary up the different ways that I ask them to interact with that text. But that's part of the art and science of using comprehensible text in a class, is making it really interesting and really unique, and then figuring out ways to recycle it so that they read it again and again and again and again. Mm-hmm. Because the more language they get in their heads, eventually the cup of their brain will overflow and language will start to come out. It might not happen for a year, at least, but words will start coming out, whether written or oral, with enough input. Now, I don't focus on what comes out for them. I focus on what goes in, and that has made things a lot easier for me.
Awesome. I'm like trying to pay like rapt attention to, and also like following all these great ideas that people are sharing in the comments. So like Abby asked a great question. How can you make a very basic story interesting? And first of all, I think like if you match the story to your students' level of ability, it doesn't matter how basic it is, it's going to be interesting. Like, so for me as a French learner, the very most simple things, like there is a person, their name is Bob, like that is so interesting to me. Yeah, you know, I'm interested in that, not so much because of the actual information, but because like I'm so excited that I'm understanding and about like what's happening in my head. Like it's just so the very fact that it's language that I'm understanding and this language that I really want to learn is engaging to me. And then a big thing is like, that's why we talk about story asking, is because you can have a really basic story. And if kids come up with weird things, you know, like funny names or like bizarre creatures, even in a simple plot, it still is interesting. And, you know, I think I can't even think about, I'm trying to think of an appropriate thing that my kids have said in the last day. That's really funny, but like they keep saying things that are really boring, but mostly just sticking the word butt or wiener or fart in it. And it's super engaging to them. So.
And for the rest of us who teach middle school, which is kind of the same, right?
Yeah, don't do that in school, but.
You know, keeping stories engaging also includes surprise details. Instead of his pet was a dog, his pet was a giant purple tarantula. Like, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. And I guarantee you the illustrations from that story are going to be way better than the illustrations of the dog. Like, totally. That's just more interesting. Mm-hmm. Our brains crave novelty, mm-hmm. and they hold on to surprising details. Mm-hmm. Storytelling is like very human.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think about some of my favorite stories from when I was a kid and some of my kids' favorite stories. And the stories themselves are often quite plain, but just by putting an animal character in instead of a human, all of a sudden it's like this really curious, fun story. So that's a really good way to do it. Yeah, Angie. my 5-year-old in particular, he's going to be going to kindergarten next year, and I'm very concerned about the language he's going to be using in school. So we'll see. Speaking of my kids, they're about done, and are going to need my attention or be knocking on the door. So I'm going to have to wrap this up. I'm sad that we got started late, but we did. But we got through reduce, reuse, and recycle. So that's exciting. What else? I feel like, okay, so I feel like
we're going to talk about this, but.
Oh yeah, talk about that.
Okay, so I was telling Martina that I was working on something called a smash doodle today. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Dreaming Spanish videos, but one thing that I'm looking at is how to give some listening that is 100% comprehensible to students, followed by reading. So Dreaming Spanish is a YouTube channel made by this wonderful man named Pablo Concon Roman, I believe. And Pablo speaks very slowly and very comprehensibly. And so I took one of his videos and I created a transcript using the auto-generate transcript, made a reading. From that, my students next week are going to watch the video a couple times, read the transcript a couple times, and then do something called a smash doodle. Martina first posted about smash doodles years ago, and I've never tried it, but I felt like I wanted to give my kids something a little more creative to do that is still input focused. Now, the input is in the listening to the video and the reading of the text, and they have to go back again and again and again to do this. That whatever comes out on paper doesn't need to be right. I did spend some time today making this an example for them, and so my requirements are 5 vocabulary words with images, 3 interesting facts. This one says turtles can have red ears. That was a fact from the video. And then
wait, is that true? Turtles can have red ears?
According to the video, yes. He used to have turtles with red ears. Isn't that awesome?
Oh my gosh.
I know. And then 2 responses, and I gave them sentence starters. It surprised me that, I learned that, and then I finished the sentence. Now, again, when my students do this in my level 1 class, they're not going to have pretty sentences with matching verbs and subjects and objects and all of that. That's not the purpose of this. The purpose of this is for them to get a little coloring time in, because we all like that. And also for them to go back and read the text again and again and again, because I had to go back and read the text so many times to do this. All right, I know you have children. I have pets that need to be let in.
Okay. Well, I'm really excited. I'm so glad that we did this. This was a boost for me, especially except for the part at the beginning where it was technology and I was getting really stressed out and thinking bad words in my head because technology is so maddening. But now that we're here together with everybody else, I feel so happy. And so I can't wait for next week's, I can't say it without saying summer first. Almost at Home Fun Club.
Almost at Home Fun Club.
Almost at Home Fun Club. And so we'll have another one next week. We won't tell you the date and time right now because we don't know, because Alicia has a schedule that keeps changing, much to her great joy. And so we will send out an email. We'll post it in the Facebook group when we know when we're coming on live next week and what we're going to do. And we can't wait to see you then. And we hope you have an awesome, awesome, awesome end to your week. We
will be reading the comments, and I will try to post some resources for you guys, or we'll maybe make a little sheet of things that we've mentioned in this and post it as well.
I feel like now we need a blog post with reduce, reuse, and recycle, and we can just go through the whole thing. That's what we'll do.
Awesome. All right.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.